Hey everybody, this is Victor. I am here with Brett. We're going to be talking about how he got started in wholesaling, how he gets deals, and how he gets 3 to 4 deals closed per month. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Victor. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad we could connect. What's interesting, we're actually in the same city. So I'm in Gainesville, you're in Gainesville, same neck of the woods, and we've really been
That's
helping each other
great.
over the years with regards to our real
Yeah,
estate
it's been fun.
businesses.
Yeah, we go back. I've been thinking about it before we jumped on. We're probably 2.5 years in, right? You at this point?
That's about right. Yeah, so
Yeah.
my
Remember, I got a
my first deal was a wholesale deal, made about 3,000. My second deal was a wholesale deal, which is what we joint ventured on because I didn't have a buyer. So you and I split that
yeah,
one. I made 3.5, you made 3.5. So that was
right.
yeah.
Win-win there. Yeah, I mean, we're both making that high level money on those deals, huh?
Good deals, yeah. But I mean, it was good to connect, and it's
But
always
you
good to
can't
like
put a
learn
price
connections
tag
with
on
people.
friendship, Victor. You cannot put a price tag on.
So you'd value it above the 3,500 is what I'm taking.
I mean, I would have paid $4,000 for your friendship, Victor.
Awesome.
I kid.
Well, good to know. Okay, well, interview over. Thanks, guys. No, I'm just kidding. Well, great. Well, yeah, we just wanted to chat with you. I know we've known each other for a while, but I just wanted to share like your story and your background. Would love to hear like why you got involved in wholesaling and how you got started. But let's
Sure.
start with that. Like, why? What were you doing before wholesaling? Why did you want to switch over to real estate? Would love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure how much of that whole story I've ever shared with you in the past. So I'll try to keep it brief so as to not to bore your listeners. So the long story of it short, I used to work for a large insurance company, and I was in the claims field. So I adjusted high level claims for auto accidents. So people would get hurt, and my job was to negotiate with the attorneys and the people direct, depending if they had an attorney representation or not. It would be with the non-represented and the attorney represented. So we did both levels of that. And significant injuries. So like, how do you put a price tag on? Hey, I broke 27 bones in my body because of your client's negligence. And then like trying to negotiate that within a certain limit, because every auto insurance policy has a policy limit in it, and your job is to settle that claim within that policy limit if you can.
Mhm.
So that was my job. Did that for almost 5 years. I'm just going to be straight up with it. I was actually let go from that company, and that crushed me because I mean, it took me by surprise. Numbers wise, I mean, I was crushing. My numbers were phenomenal. They were great. I don't get into all the details as to what kind of happened, but there was some, and there's always politics, at big in the corporate world that were going on. So, just some stuff that happened that was a little bit unethical that I had addressed and brought up. And it was about 6 months after that got brought up that I was,
Mhm.
politely let out the door. So, that, opened my eye to the corporate world of how shady some things can be. And it just became really like, once it got that kind of unethical, it was hard for me to ignore it. So anyway, so that's what I spent a lot of time at that company though, and they spent a lot of money on me teaching me how to negotiate and how to talk to people on a daily basis, right? Like how to build rapport with them to such a way that they feel comfortable and confident with you quickly. And then, like I said, they would fly me and others like me around the country to meet with the best negotiating trainers in the world. Just because that was our job.
Mhm.
So I did. That's where kind of my teeth cut is in the negotiation space. After I lost that job, I moved into a marketing and business development role at a local physical therapy company that they specialized in actually automobile insurance accidents. That was like their niche. And so I knew that like the back of my hand from being, an adjuster for so long. And my job was basically to meet with doctors and lawyers and just build their business. So I could speak their language because I was in that space for so long. So just I would sit down in front of these guys. Like I knew what their needs were because I was on the other side of the table for so long. and just could speak their language with them and build those relationships out. So, and then marketing to those people and to get business back. So that's where I cut my teeth in marketing. And then long story short, that world just wasn't, I had 3 kids at the time and I wasn't making enough money to make ends meet. I just wasn't, it just, the bills weren't being met. After our 3rd kid, we have 3 kids, by the way. After that, my wife decided she wanted to stay home to help take care of the kids. Cause at the end of the day, putting 3 kids in school or in daycare is very expensive, and it didn't make sense for her, all of her time to be spent working a job for that to not even pay for the childcare, schooling, etc. Once that happened, we're looking at our bills and we're like, oh my gosh, we only have a few months of money in the bank to be able to kind of pay our bills, really, because I wasn't bringing enough to cover our bills at the time, not everything, and we had enough in the bank to supplement to pay the bills, but it was running out quickly. So I'm trying to figure out what to do, where to go. And my wife's aunt, has been flipping like you, for, geez, man, probably like 40 years, something ridiculous. I mean, for a very, probably close, I'm not exaggerating, about 40 years. And she's been talking to me about real estate ever since I've known her. And she's been trying to get me into the game in a lot of different spaces, not just flipping, not wholesaling, just all kinds of angles. And I just kind of never did because it felt too complicated. I didn't feel like I was good enough for it. I didn't know how to get started. I don't know what to do. What happens if, all the normal basic questions that people run into. But now when my money was strapped and tight and I couldn't pay my bills, I'm on Google trying to find, what do I do? Fast forward, Facebook, when you're Googling for something, you get retargeted on an ad on Facebook, or you get retargeted. Very well-known, probably one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known, wholesaler in the country had a webinar that he was promoting, and this is back in 2016. And I was like, I'll check this out. I was already almost sold, by the way, that I was going to go into rentals. I was going to just start accumulating rentals properties and then do 1031 exchanges into, the next one, and so on and so forth. And I was going to do it. I didn't know what the heck, where to start. I didn't even know what a 1030 exchange was, but I was going to do it, right? I was like, I'm in. I'm going to do it, because I didn't know what else to do. And then I saw this webinar, and he was talking about wholesaling real estate, and I was in. It must have been a really good webinar because it felt like every word coming out of his mouth was talking to me, and I'm like, man, that's for me. This is me. I got off the webinar and I was like, there's no way this is real. So for the listeners that don't know, basically all that wholesaling is, it's finding a discounted property. This is my definition of it. I don't want to put like a little trademark, like this is wholesaling, but my definition is.
Yeah. What's your definition?
It's the art of finding a deeply discounted property. You can start and end there, and but for me, what I do is I get a discounted property. For lack of a better example, we'll say it's $50,000 is what I get property for under contract. I call Victor and say, hey, Victor, I've got a property. It's $60,000. It meets your criteria for whatever reason. Doesn't matter what that is. When we close at the closing table on that, Victor buys the house for $60,000. The seller sells their house for $1,000. That money in the gap is what I take home. And for that example, it's a $10,000 deal. Okay. So I thought that was completely insane. It's got to be illegal. There's no way that this is real. Like all those things, right? That was a Friday. On Monday, over the weekend, I had made a phone call to a for sale by owner on Zillow that I had found. I was traveling to Jacksonville, Florida. We're in Gainesville, so I was traveling to Jacksonville at least 3 times a week with my job at the time. I was still working full time. And on my lunch break, called a for sale by owner. He said, sure, I can meet him. So I met him on that Monday. That was Friday that I watched the webinar. Monday, called the guy over the weekend. 1 phone call ever, for sale by owner. He agrees to meet me, and I put it under contract. But I didn't know how to write a contract. So I had to bring somebody out there with me to help me write a contract. So I JV'd my first deal because I had no idea what to do. So that first deal was a total of $10,000, and I split it 50-50 because I didn't know what I was doing. I was happy to split that. I was like, you mean to tell me? And then we closed in like 8 days. So in 8 days, I had a $5,000 check in my hand.
Did you ever buy the course? Sorry to cut you off. Did you ever buy the course? You just watched the webinar and you just like learned as much as you could?
Before I did, fast forwarding, I did end up buying his course,
Okay.
but I did that first. I literally proved this man right. And then I was like, well, son of a gun, this is real. Like at that point, it was just like, this is crazy. How do I do it again? And so on, long story short, I purchased his course, went through it, and it taught me a lot of the basic steps of wholesaling from that level. And that's how I got my start. I should always put that disclaimer. I put my little disclaimer on there. When you're watching TV and you see those results not typical, please don't, my results are not typical results. Like you don't ever make one phone call and get a deal. Like it just doesn't work that way. But it could.
It could. Yeah. Someone listening definitely.
I'm proof, man. I'm proof. You're one call away from a deal.
Yeah.
I just happened to get it.
So that's fun. I remember you telling the story of the deal. I don't remember so much about your backstory. I know we've talked about it. But it's interesting to hear that transition. Like, okay, you're working full time. It's not working out. I got to do something else. Wholesaling falls into your lap, and like you do awesome with it within like 2 weeks. So what are the next steps? What happened after that? After you did your first wholesale deal, how does your journey continue from there?
Sure. And I should say the reason I chose wholesaling on that front end is because I hope people don't get upset with me. It just seemed easier. And it sounds like I can do that. Because I'm not that smart of a guy, right? There's so many people that are just so much better and at all kinds of things than I am. But I'm like, I'm not that smart. So I could do that. That's kind of how it felt. So the next thing that happened is actually I just kept, pounding the for sale by owners after that deal happened. And it was the next week I got another appointment and I put another property under contract. And I was like, whoa, I'm good at this. I was like, you can't touch me. I'm really good. That deal ended up falling through and it was another like 3 months I got my next deal. But I realized, long story short, it was about 6 months. And after 6 months time, I had done 4 deals in 6 months.
Congrats. Awesome.
Yeah. And that was good, but it wasn't like, I wasn't getting big deals. They were like $3,000, but for me to supplement my income, because I was still working full time, mind you, 50, 55 hours a week. And I will tell everybody listening, I was the best worker in my time that I could be. I never let wholesaling affect, my day to day. And it took me a long time to go full time because I wanted to continue working that job and be honorable to my company that I worked for, So it took me a long time, but yeah, it took about 6 months, 4 deals. And then I hired a business coach, like a legit business coach. And that's what really took me to the next level.
Mm-hmm. So now you're doing like 3-4 deals a month, or like what's your current wholesale?
Yeah. We're ramping back up a little more now. COVID slowed us down quite a bit. So for listeners, for anybody that's, wholesaling is a lot more about marketing than it ever is about the real estate. And I tell people I'm not in the real estate business. I'm in the marketing business. And when COVID hit for us anyway, it slowed us down quite a bit because the people that were talking to us before kind of stopped responding the way they did, and I had to figure out how to adapt and to shift to that marketing, to what's going to work. So yeah, we're back up now. I'd say anywhere from at least 3 deals a month on the low end is what we're doing. Yeah.
Can you talk like high level, like how to get a deal? Because I know that a lot of people struggle with, like a lot of people who want to get into real estate. They're like, okay, cool. I want to get into real estate. Let's get a realtor. Let's start looking at deals on the MLS. But you do things differently, especially as a wholesaler. Can you at least talk like high level, like how you find a deal?
Yeah, easy peasy. I mean, to play devil's advocate on that, just for to play devil's advocate, you can get a deal on the MLS. You absolutely can. It's a lot harder because the competition is a lot. I mean, the MLS, everybody's there. Everybody's in that pool playing around. So you're swimming around in everybody's junk. You know what I mean? You ever go into a swimming pool, it's a community pool, and everybody's swimming in there, and you're swimming in somebody's pee. You know what I mean? You are. Like, it's disgusting. Like, I don't want to play in that pool. I want a private pool. I don't want to play in that pool. So for me, when I'm finding deals, I don't want to play in the same pool as everybody else. Okay.
Mhm.
So we do off-market deals, and we attract that for us in our business with a couple different
So
resources. But
real
we
quick,
love
sorry to cut you
direct
off.
mail.
So before we go into the specifics, like what's an off-market deal?
Yeah. Oh, so on market is you list the property on the MLS with a realtor, or some people do it for sale by owner, but they still list it to the MLS multiple listings service,
Mhm.
and they list that property on there. And then basically everybody has access to Zillow, Realtor.com, and they all can see these properties that are listed for sale, by whomever, right?
Mhm.
So we like to utilize off-market opportunities so I'm going to go into that a little bit further now. Off-market deals, what are they? And for us, an off-market deal is anything that's not listed on the MLS that we were just talking about, right?
Mhm.
So we utilize direct mail. That's our favorite resource. Direct mail, it can be anything. You can do a postcard. It can be a letter. It can be a sticky note that you somehow gotten somebody's, I don't know. It doesn't matter what it is. It's direct mail. We love postcards in our business.
Mhm.
And it basically, our message is very simple. The message just says, hello, my name is Brett. Are you interested in selling your property at 123 Main Street? If you'd like a fair cash offer, with no obligation, please call or text us. Sign off. Thanks, Brett. My phone number that's on the bottom of it, and our website.
Mhm.
And that we target specific demographics in that. And that demographic, it can be tax delinquent, vacant houses, people that are more geared toward distress.
Mhm.
So, and that's another thing why the MLS is a little harder, is because the MLS doesn't really, there's not a lot of distressed sellers on the MLS. They don't need to sell their house for any reason. They want to sell their house for some reason. All right. And there's a difference in need versus want. We know that.
Mhm.
And if they need to sell a house, for fast and get out of something in a hurry, well, probably listing it's not going to be the best way to go on that. So, or maybe it is. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's no wrong way to do it for them, but we found that our pool that we like to swim in, more of the people that we like are in the one that's off market, because those people say, hey, you know what? They'll call us and they'll say, I do need to sell my house. Here's why. And it could be many, many reasons. There's no one right or wrong, right? So that's the difference for us, off market versus on. We love off market because we attract them with our marketing, and we see a lot more positive response from that. And I love postcards because it's a call to action from a seller. I know a lot of people in the wholesaling space and even in the flipper space is they love texting or cold calling, or they're prospecting for leads,
Mhm.
right? And I know Victor, you kind of come up in that school of prospecting, and that's not wrong. It works. I mean, it works at a very high level. It's great. I like it when people take my postcard, reach out to me. I found that the quality of the lead is a little bit higher.
Mhm.
And for me, it's easier to train people that work for us how to convert with that seller when you have a higher quality lead that somebody's motivated to work on. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts. So we do some other stuff. We do Google pay-per-click. We do have small batch texting that we do as well to very targeted lists. Specifically in direct mail, when you do that, you get a lot of mail that's returned to you, meaning it couldn't make it into the seller's mailbox for some reason. Well, if I'm sending out a piece of mail to you and it never makes it, nobody else is able to contact you there either. So I know nobody's unless they're texting or calling you, nobody's able to get a hold of you.
Mhm.
So those people that don't like on the return mail, we are reaching out to those, customers, that way. So that's kind of how our marketing, what it looks like on the very, high level view of it. It's not, I'm trying not to get too granular there. But that's how we attract motivated sellers.
So that's how you find people. So you do off-market deals, and then you reach out to them
Yeah.
directly. through a lot of different methods.
Yep.
And like, can
So
you
they'll
talk to me
call
about
us.
like, what's that?
Yeah. So what they do when they call us, we have every phone call that comes in. We have a live answering, option on the table until like 8 o'clock at night,
Mm-hmm.
and then we said it does go to voicemail. Because I mean, I want people to actually have an evening and a nighttime, that work with us. I don't want to like have everybody's phones, like, 'cause people will call you at like 1 a.m.
Is that right?
I don't know, like, thinking you're going to answer. And I'm like, what in the world are they thinking, right? But everybody that calls, though, for the most part, we live answer them. And in our team, we do like a round robin thing where if I can't answer it after 10 seconds, it rings to somebody else, so on and so forth. So that we found that our results are much better when we're able to answer those calls live. Because they're, the leads are hot now. They may not be hot in, 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair point. I've seen that as well. Just talking to people, I've seen that as well with me dealing with it. So they call you, it's a live answering service, you talk to them. Like, what happens next? You like qualify them, like you go see the property. What happens next in terms of the flow?
Yeah, so we qualify them. I don't know that our way is any better or worse than anybody else's, just kind of how we do it. We go through we have a script that we use. I've been doing this for, I've closed a lot of deals at this point, and I still use a script every time.
Okay. That's good advice. Yeah.
I mean, I think you have to. I mean, it just keeps you on task. It keeps you focused. And it's like, I'm sorry, little mini caveat here. There's a book that was written that kind of changed my perspective on scripts, on different things like that. It's called The Checklist Manifesto. I encourage anybody to check that out. But it's basically written by doctors when they go into the OR, and they're operating on, during open heart surgery. This doctor may have performed 1,000 open heart surgeries in his career, or a pilot may have flown 1,000 times. But every time they go into the OR, to turn on their, to fly, they go through a checklist to make sure that everything's there. The doctors found that their I don't know, is it mortality rate? Like what that's called when people that have died in the process dropped by like 90%.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was all, I mean, they were.
That's crazy.
That's insane just by a checklist. But they've been doing this forever. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of funny how it's like, wait a second. So, and for me, I'm like, man, I may have been doing this forever, but my script is like my checklist, So yeah, we go through our checklist, our script. Try to make it feel as organic as possible, like it's a conversation, not a, okay, now, Victor, could you tell me about the house? All right. Does it need any repairs? Check. Does it need a roof? Check. Like make it feel good, make it feel natural. But we go through we have some qualifying questions. The basic ones are, one of them is, why do you want to sell the property? When do you want to sell the property? And then condition and so on and so forth on those, and if there's any degree of motivation, we'll either, COVID kind of threw things around a little bit with meeting people, but before COVID, if it was even they're remotely interested, I want to be on that appointment. So now what we're doing is, once we get down to the end, if I could make you a cash offer that we could close quickly, buy your property as is, we'll cover all the closing costs. We'll make this a smooth and easy process for you. Would you be interested in something like that? Well, yeah, I would. What would you take for, if I could do all of those things? What would be the best price you would consider? They give me a number. Is that the best you can do? And then if there's any kind of motivation, that question, is that the best you can do? We'll reveal that. And like, well, I could, now I know that they're negotiable. And if I know that they're negotiable at all, everybody that calls us, we're going to give them an offer anyway. But we'll start, and then they'll go into our hot leads part. Well, one of two things will happen is our lead manager that takes all those will make that initial offer. It's usually really low on purpose, just to get them talking. Sometimes they say yes to that offer no matter what. It's weird. That's not my problem. Okay, cool. But then if it doesn't turn to that, well, let's see if I can get Brett on the phone and maybe we can discuss this a little bit further. and then it's basically he'll transfer the call to me while on the phone with them. So still live. So he'll call you back in 2 days. It's still now. And then I get on the phone and I start the process, and I can send them in the world of, electronic signatures. We can send over contracts right now, now I know, our market, I know our market. I know it like the back of my hand. I know if a property is in a specific neighborhood, it's worth more than if it's in another specific neighborhood. Right. So we can, for the most part, make blind offers based on what they've given us as far as feedback on roof condition, floor, and then there's certain things that we just make an automatic assumption that it needs as well. So we calculate that into our offer price. And then if it's like we're just a little bit too far apart, even on the phone, well, when could we come out there to meet with you and see if we can't work this out? Right. Mm-hmm. So it's limited my in-person appointments from, 7 or 8, 10 a week in-person appointments to like maybe I'm on 1 or 2 a week. But we've been also closing more deals per week, contracts per week without ever seeing them.
Gotcha. So you qualify them more, and then for the ones that are really
a lot more aggressive.
Yeah.
A lot more aggressive qualification. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What would you recommend for someone starting? Like, would you recommend them to go on every appointment, or would you recommend them to be more specific?
We're living in a different kind of world than we did last year, any time in history, right? I would have last year told you, go on every single appointment. If there's no equity in the house, or if there is equity in the house, it doesn't matter. Go on everyone because you need the experience. Mm-hmm. Meeting with people, there's nothing like meeting belly to belly with somebody and actually like looking them in the eye. There's nothing like it. I can assure you I can do much better deals if I get to stand in front of your face, right? Much better. But back up a little bit, I did every single deal, if you want to call it that I closed when I was in the auto insurance adjusting world was all over the phone. Mm-hmm. Everything we ever did, all the negotiation we ever did. So I luckily, if you want to call it that, I have a resource manual of how to do just that from the best people in the industry. And I just pulled out, I kept all of it. So I just pulled out my stuff and I was like, well, let's jump back into that. And so like how follow-ups and how to get back in front of somebody's face and how to actually get them to work with you virtually, man, it was a game. Like that life in the insurance adjusting was a game changer for me in my business today because of that. So now getting started, I just think people don't want to make an offer on the phone because they're scared or uncomfortable because like, I haven't seen it. How could I make an offer? To me, I'm like, I would rather make the offer on the phone. They say yes, we go out there to the property if you want to see it at that point, and then usually we're getting to the point now where we don't really ever have to make adjustments. But if you have to make an adjustment, you can. But I'd rather have the chance to make the adjustment. Do you know what I mean? Versus like, well, I couldn't make an offer to them right now. And then you know what? When you don't make that offer, somebody like me is going to come in there and make that offer. You're going to lose that opportunity. So I would take every single shot I can in hopes that one of them says yes. And then we figure it out. It's the 80-20 principle, right? You get 80 of the way figured out, and then you figure out the rest of it as you go. And I know you apply that in your business too. We talked about that many times. So
I like that perspective where like you're still putting in an offer, because I know a lot of beginners, they're hesitant to make that first offer. They're like, oh, what if it's set in stone? What if they hold me to it? I can't lower my price or up my price. And you're saying like, just put the offer out there. You can always adjust it. Maybe you see it in person, it's a wreck. You're like, I didn't know it'd be this bad. So you can always lower it. So I like that perspective, like just get out there.
Yeah, and I'll say that too, is like I've had it happen where I put the property, I'm making this number up. This is an example though, where I put it under contract for $50,000 and I needed to get, oh my gosh, I've seen it in person. It's nothing like what you said it was, which we all know that sellers never lie about the condition of their property, psych. Right. And we get out there and it's like, oh my gosh, I need to get it for $30,000. Mr. Seller, Mr. Victor, I need to get this property for $30,000. We're at 50. Oh, I can never do that. I'm so sorry. I'm like, all right, well then we have a cancel, and I bring a cancellation, with me, and we cancel the contract right then and there. You can't be scared to cancel a contract. If your contracts are good, and I know the ones that you're probably, sharing with your listeners, You've got your out clauses inside of your contract so that you can do that if you have to, and you're not in any legal issue. There's no legal issues with that, right? And so for us, we use that. It's never the intention to back out of a deal, ever. My intention is always to close on every single one that we do. And my offers reflect that so that we don't have to back out of deals. But it happens. You can't be scared of that, because people that are scared of like, well, what if I have to, they're never going to get deals. Just straight up. They're always going to, what if, well, while you're what ifing, I'm going to come in there and get it.
Mm-hmm. No, I like the
right. I mean, that's
yeah.
rude. Not just me. Every market has somebody in it that's doing what you're doing. You're not the only person in your market. I'm not the only wholesaler in my market. We know a lot of them together that we both done business with.
Yeah.
If they don't reach out, they're going to reach out to somebody else. They're reaching out to me. That's another thing. If they're willing to pick up the phone on a 35-cent postcard and call me, I'm going to make the assumption that they're calling everybody else too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's not like I'm the only person that, like, they're in active, I'm looking to do this now mode, and they're not calling just me. So it's in my best interest and your best interest that you make the offer now, send them a contract now, start now, because somebody else is going to do it. It's not, I mean, it's just, and I've learned that. I hate going through my records and my CRM, customer resource management, my tools that I keep like all our leads coming in. I hate going through old leads, following up on it and going, oh, it was sold to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like that, yeah. It hurts, man. It hurts because I'm spending money to get those people to call me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I don't execute on that, I let them down. That's the way I let myself down too, and our business down. But I let that customer down. They reached out to me for help, and I didn't. And I didn't. That sucks. So.
That's a really good way to look at it. I think a lot of people get caught in their head, like, what if this happens where I have to back out? What if they get mad at me? And it's just better is to move forward, take that step forward, try to help them out as much as possible. And, 9 times out of 10, you're good. You can move forward, but that little small percentage, I think that's what holds people back.
They're going to get mad. Hey, in our business too, on the flipping side and on this side, you're going to make somebody mad. Mm-hmm. I know you walked through some of that recently, Victor. People get mad at you, man. Right? You're not, I mean, people get upset with you. And it's okay. We're allowed to get mad at, like, that's fine. You can be mad at me. I'm going to smile anyway. Like, it's my choice how I respond to that. If your heart, in my opinion, if your heart is in it to genuinely help people, then you're not going to please everybody in the world. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to be okay. And that one time that somebody yells at you, okay, I'm still helping 90% of the people that call me. Okay, 10%. Next. Mm-hmm. That's not I'm not going to wait. It's not going to be now it's another thing. If 90% of the people were hating me for it, like, all right, we need to reevaluate this.
Story, yeah. Something's going wrong. Yeah.
Like, for a small fraction, big whoop. So, yeah.
I think that's really good advice. I think that's a good segue with regards to helping people. I understand you're working on another interesting project, like you're still doing wholesaling, but you're working on some sort of course, or can you kind of tell us what sort of training or what you're starting to put together to help others out as well?
You're letting the cat out a little bit there, but yeah, I mean, it's not, we're building it out. It's nowhere near at a position of where I'm going, hey, let's tell the world about this thing we're doing. But basically it's, the reason this background is behind me is when I've been recording, some of the stuff that we're doing is I really want to teach people in smaller markets. We live in a small market, but where I specifically live is outside of Gainesville, and there's 4,000 people in my, here. We've closed, I know you've closed deals in towns of 1,500 people. I've closed deals in 50, and I wanted to, there's always somebody in those markets around the country, Florida, wherever, that it's small and people think that they can't do deals in small towns. They think they can't. And that's a limiting belief system. And I want to teach people like, hey, I'm doing it in a small town. You can too, right? So that's kind of what we're building out, specifically more geared toward wholesaling, because that's where I have my level. I never want to say I'm an expert. I'm learning every day, but I have a lot more working knowledge and expertise in that field than I do in the traditional flipping space, which is, I know that's where you're at, right? We will discuss a little bit of what a flip looks like, very high level, like not high level, but like 50,000 feet, like overview, general, like overview. This is what flipping looks like. But I'm more geared toward the idea of wholesaling. That's just what I know. But yeah, that's what, that's kind of something we're building out. I'm excited about. I know I get a lot of people in our market that we're in, Victor, they call me often and every day, like asking like, what to do, why, how, etc. And that's really kind of what's led me down this journey of like, if I've done this and I've learned from a lot of good and or bad experiences, if I can help avoid some of those pitfalls for other people or help them get a little more successful faster, because I wouldn't be where I am without the coaching and the mentorship that I got. If I know something and I don't share that with the world, I feel like I'm not doing my part. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like it's a little mini passion of mine. I still love what I'm doing on the day-to-day with our business here. But I do want to be able to put that out there as a resource to people to say, hey, you can do it too, and we can help you. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's very noble, and like this is what you're doing, so that's what you're teaching. So I think that's a great perspective, especially if people are reaching out to you. Like, how do you help those people? How do you help people on a mass scale, not just one-on-one? Like, how do you help more than one person?
That's the trick, and I know you and I've talked about that many times, just on phone calls of like, it's easy to go one-on-one like you and I are talking right now. Like, okay, let's work through it in detail one-on-one. That's easier. But when you've got like, 50 people asking for one-on-one time,
that's tough. Yeah.
A little different. So trying to create a product that 50 people can watch at once and all still get quality information from, they can actually guide and direct them and actually help. Because like, I know we both have this view of like, we don't ever want to put ourselves out there as a resource and not follow through with it. Your credibility goes out the window. I can't claim to be an expert in my field and be like, well, I don't really know how to do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's always the fear of like being seen, like the vulnerable part of what we're doing is like, you really have to put it out there, like, and follow up and follow through with what you're putting out there to the world. That's kind of why I'm taking my time building this out, is because when this rolls out, I project first quarter of 2021 is when it roll out. It's going to be good. It's not going to be, this is what wholesaling is. Call me with any questions. You know what I mean? It's like, I really want it to be like, so like focused that you can literally like follow step for step and get to, your first deal or many deals. Because I know a lot of people in my world, I know everybody watching this has seen some wholesaling guru out there that goes, take these steps to get to your first deal. But like, not a lot of people are going, take these steps to get you to your next deal. Everybody can get to one, but going 1 to 2 is easy enough. Going 2 to 3, fine. But when you want to do 3, 4 deals, 5 deals a month consistently every month, that is an absolutely different business, and it's not easy.
So that's where you help. I know it's still early. I know you're still working on it. Is there a way people can get a hold of you and you can like keep in touch with them if they're interested in this? Like, is there a way they can get a hold of you, or is there a way, I think some sort of list or like a waiting list, or how are you doing that?
The best, the best resource is gonna be are you gonna have show notes on here, Victor, or anything like that that we can put out to people? Or so we'll just attach my email. They can do it that way. That's a really good resource. And then, or they can find me on Facebook direct message me there. It's probably the best way to do that.
Just your full name, Brett McCollum.
Yeah, at Brett McCollum. Yeah, you'll see it there, and you'll see me with my wife and kids on there. And then, yeah, just shoot me a message, friend request me. If I see that Victor's, and if we're mutual friends, then I'll assume that they're good. They're good people. I'm kidding. I get friend requests every day from people and I'm like, that's a bot, that's a bot, that's a bot, that's a bot. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm not, but if I know that we're mutual friends with people, and just shoot me a message. I'm genuinely happy to help and answer questions. And yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. If folks want to get a hold of you, search you on Facebook, or we'll also include your email so you can reach out directly. Yeah. Say, hey, I want to, be in line for your next product when it launches Q1 2021. Fingers crossed.
I'll end with this statement too. My business coach is famous for this, and I'll reiterate it. Wholesaling is easy. Wholesalers are difficult.
That's funny. I haven't heard that one before. That's funny.
Because it is wholesaling itself is an easy thing. We, the person, our minds, are what makes it difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why people are very fortunate to have people like yourself that they can say, hey, you know what? Well, and that's, it sounds so cheesy and cliche, Victor, but if we can get our mindset right going into it, man, we still do this thing. I know Victor does it too. We do daily affirmations, morning and evening.
That's right.
To set our mind right. You know what I mean? And I think that's where it begins. And for me, it's where it begins and ends. Beginning of the day, end of the day. So that we can operate our businesses at a very high level and we can help more people. So wholesaling is easy. Wholesalers are difficult. And I'm here.
That's so funny. First time I heard it.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here with any questions. And I may not be I'm very nice. I'll say this. I'm very nice, but I might challenge you. So if you call me with questions, I might challenge you. Not in a mean-spirited way, but as I know that Victor, we talk and I'll say something to the, what is that? And I want to get to the root of the problem, not so much just answer my question. So, be prepared for that if you guys do reach out to me, because I want to help, but I think it's more important to help you at its root, not on the surface level. Not treating the symptom, let's treat the actual problem. So.
Perfect. Well, again, appreciate you taking the time. This has been fantastic. Hopefully everyone listening has gotten something out of it as well. But appreciate it. And everyone, look out for Brett's course, program, training here in the future. I'm sure he'll do fantastic with it.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Appreciate you.